important is like there's not enough. Sometimes there's a lot of vitality in communities of color, but then there's a lot of pain and suffering. And I think that what I'm seeing is that in the beginning, like you can tap into a lot of that pain and suffering because there's a lot of ancestral stories that keep washing up and people are trudging. People are suffering and they're holding it in their DNA. And even though I have my share of that type of stuff, I really see that the more I elevate myself, and then that goes into my daughter, it goes into my friends, the more that people see that you are able to hold this place, you're like not you're like creating a ripple effect. And not that you're super anything, but that you're holding this sense of vitality and you're holding this sense of like importance, then they can see that their lives are important and that they see that there's a space for them and they can see there's a technology to get there. And that's like the huge step is like hold that space. Hold that space for the people that are coming after you. They need it. They really, really need it. So that's very important.
Hi, my name is Zenka Caro. I'm founder of LightNet and the Purpose Lab. And my passion and purpose is to remove the word impossible from the dictionary. I'm here today with Paula Walker. She's an award-winning film director. She also directs commercials, shorts, and music videos. And she got her start from an early age. She really wanted to be a dancer. She loved movement and the poetry of it. And over her life, she has worked in this love into everything she touches and does. This is one of my all-time favorite interviews that we've done in this lab, and I just love her personality. She's so wise, so brilliant, so real. It's a great honor for me to present to you Paula Walker.
My name's Paula Walker, and I'm a filmmaker. I'm a director, and I started also my first film. I wanted to I wanted to dance, and then I went to college, University of Michigan, and then I decided I wanted to direct. But I was kind of not sure about that, decision. I anyway, I was working in on the Warner Brothers lot, and I was in a world of a lot of filmmakers. We were making films in our backyard. My husband is a cinematographer from Germany. He's an artist, a painter, and I was a dancer. And I was on a street where everybody was like a filmmaker, it seemed like, and we were making things. I got a job at Warner Brothers as a story editor, and I met someone named Jeff Aroff, who was very powerful, and he was the head of Warner Brothers. And I had this job, but it was a really strange job because our boss wasn't there very often. And I would sit with him and just sit in his office, basically just sit on the floor in his office and just go through everything. And then I finally said, Jeff, I want to direct. And so he said, sure. We talked about it, and he said, you are a director. And he gave me a track, and I found a producer, and we made this video. And my grandmother, who's also been part of my guidance, who is this Black lady who is a school teacher, I asked her for money. He gave me a certain amount of money, but I needed more money. And I asked her for money, and I said, I need about $6,000. Can you give it to me? She goes, what's your business plan? And I did my storyboards, and I laid out everything I was shooting and everything like that. And she gave me $6,000 in a paper bag to match Warner Brothers money. And that's how I started my company, Straddle Films. And we went on to make millions, but it always started from that paper bag that she gave me. I think the obstacles are always there, like something, you might even get to your purpose, to what you think your purpose is. I've had many times where I thought, I've made it, I'm here, I climbed the mountain. I I'm doing amazing, and then that might all fall apart, so that might like lead you to something else. But I feel like there's just like paths that you take, and there's paths in the road, and some of those paths get walled off to you and you can't reach them. But then that means that maybe you're not supposed to be precisely there, and some things are precisely there. I remember I was in Italy, and I was standing around, and there was a dance recital or a dance event, and I went with my husband, and it was Pina Bausch, and it blew my mind. It was incredible. It was dance, it was speaking, it was words, it was gesture, it was this gesture thing, based thing that just was what I wanted to see in movement. And then years later, I was standing in New York, getting out of a meeting, um, and I saw a sign, or I saw something for Pina Bausch was performing, and I got in a car. And she was performing that night at that moment. So I jumped in the car, and it was a Brooklyn Academy of Music, and I said, "Take me there." The performance had already started. I I ran all the way up the stairs, got into the place. The box office was closed. I knocked on the box office. The guy came out. He said, "We've already started. All the tickets are done. There's no tickets." And I said, "I came all the way from Los Angeles to see this." He gave me a ticket. He said, "I'm going to give you a ticket. It's a front row." It was the last time she performed. It was the last time. She died right after that. I think about that experience of that time of you know of that Pina Bausch, like what she meant to me, and the opportunities I had to see her. I saw her through the years. Anytime I could see her, I would go. I saw her many, many times. Um, and I feel like because I was guided to that last performance, it was like that was guidance. That was saying to me that I was being guided by spirit, something higher above, and to give me that richness of the world that she had created. And I Wuppertal is the town where she was, and my husband's from Bochum, which is in Germany. And I was there in Bochum many times, and I didn't know that Wuppertal was right next to it. So even though there were things, if I had known, I would have gone. I would have followed her anywhere. But she was one of those pivotal people that influenced me as a director, as a filmmaker. And I was guided to her, and the guidance lasted for years. So as there is guidance that we have if we can tap into it, if we can believe it. And that's that spiritual alignment that everyone's talking about here at this festival, that we have to share with people. It's real. It does exist. I feel like I've been guided as a Black woman, and like even though there have been defeats and there have been serious setbacks, I my guidance never leaves me. It's my North Star. And that's where we have to live in, and I think it's very important. I think I knew when I was 6 years old. Um, I I was taken to a dance class, and I felt like I was where I needed to be. And I remember I was dancing, and it felt like something opened up from above and just hit me like a ray, a shaft of light. And I just knew I was supposed to be there. And ever since then, my whole life has always been about dance or through dance, or my discovery was through dance, because dance is a lot bigger than just dancing and just performing. It's also an internal practice. And and so the dance has been like the constant road, my path, and then it took me to filmmaking, And it took me to writing stories, but always through that lens. But I just remember I was in that Olga Flicker School of Ballet, and I was doing, I don't know, like I was practicing for a recital. And I was 6 years old, and I really wasn't sure I was supposed to be there because I felt like I was not skinny, not white, not blonde, not pretty, but that shaft of light told me that I was supposed to be. It was hard. It was really hard. My parents didn't want me to dance. I immediately got in the car with my mom. Um, and she was a writer, and she was like a very, she was aware of a lot of things. And I just said, I just want to come here every day and I want to study. And I had my mission statement that I wanted to be a prima ballerina assoluta. And I started studying all these ballerinas like Margot Fontaine and Markov and I got obsessed with Gelsey Kirkland, and I was just like really obsessed. And you start learning about how people move and how they breathe and how they phrase and move to music. And my parents were really concerned about this. Um, my dad was a doctor. We lived in Baldwin Hills. And they tried to block me from going. And then I remember we had a recital. And anyway, it didn't go. I was put in the front row and I made a mistake. And my mom had the teacher tell me that I wasn't suitable for ballet. And it broke my heart. I'm really dyslexic. I have trouble with left and right. So I think 90% of the world has not found their calling and their passion, because we are mentally cut off from, we're only living in our brains, the upper part of our brains. And I think that a problem with the world is that we're not living in our whole body. And having connection to spirit or having connection to that part of you, it does not live in terms of instructions. It does not live in terms of, it's a voice, that's a critical voice. That's a voice that says you're doing the wrong thing. That's a voice that's monitoring you. That's a persona. That's all the fake things that we have. The spiritual voice, which you hear in like all kinds of things, like you hear it in spirituals, you hear it in music, you hear it in dance. It's when an artist goes deeply inside of themselves. It's deep inside of here. And then you find your voice. And I've worked with like Tina Turner, I've worked with Carlos Santana, I've worked with Lou Reed, I've worked with all these, amazing, amazing artists and done videos for them and been with them in their process. And it's not manufactured, it's real. It's a real thing. It's a real thing. It's a real spiritual thing that they're feeling. And the world is not able to find that with everyone because people are shut down and blocked. And we don't really have a process. I was lucky because to find my own, there's finding your voice and then there's finding your purpose, and they're two different things. You might have a vague idea of what your purpose is, but then you have to cultivate your voice, which is really hard and difficult work. And so, we don't have in the Western world, I don't think it's as strong as a process as it is in maybe other cultures. Finding your voice is a very long process. Finding your voice is a very tough process. It's you might have your purpose. You might know that you want to be a painter, but finding your voice as a painter is not easy. So it's a process of cultivation. And that process of cultivating yourself as a human being, which is like all the things that we need to cultivate, like a sensitivity, a consciousness, a sense of beauty, and then going deep inside and seeing what the soil is, what's inside of you, and then putting that out over and over and over again. A lot of times when you have a unique voice, you're going to be rejected because, what we're taught is basically is like what we're taught is to make films or to make things as product. And the person who can make the best product, the cheapest product, the best product is a person who many times is a person that's called out. But that's a very different process, marketing yourself and finding a niche as opposed to finding your voice. And the voice is something that no one can ever take away from you. So it's a cultivation, it's a deep cultivation. The dance cultivation for me was very strong because as a dancer, you're standing in front of the mirror every day. You're very critical. You're looking at yourself. You're judging. You're if you have a teacher who's really amazing, you're following her instructions and you're learning how to move in a certain way, how to phrase, how to read music. But that's the same thing as a filmmaker. You have to learn how to read people, to read the room, how to phrase, like how do you cut, how do you finesse things, how do things flow, what's your story style. And so, or whatever artist you are. So finding your destiny, your path is one thing, and then the next thing is cultivating that. The advice that I would give to somebody who's looking for their heart and to their path is to sink in deeply into themselves, and to really, I think we don't have feeling in this culture. We don't feel our way into things. We think our way into things. We learn rules. We learn what's acceptable. We learn, formulas. We learn all these things. And that is all good. It's good to know how to light. It's good to know how to move a camera. It's good to study everybody and to know that. But to find your path and to find your purpose, you have to almost break away a little bit from the world. You have to go back to what inspired you. Like I always say, go back to what inspired you. Go back to the thing that sparked you. What was the thing that made you want to be a filmmaker or want to be a dancer or painter or singer? What was the moment? And you follow that. It's like your ancestor. You follow that seed, and it's your ancestral seed. And then you find out who has spoken in that path, who has, for me, it was Catherine Dunham was really important. Pina Bausch was really important. There were certain people that were, and then I could look at their work. I could read about them. I could study them. And then that helped me find my way, You can be very successful and not have found your voice. In fact, that's what happens to most people. You can, for me as a commercial director, I found a voice, I found a style, but then in commercials it becomes so much more about following something that's already preset. And so that was a very tricky period for me because I felt like my voice was being shut down and curtailed, and less of my voice was in the work I was doing, but it was like you're getting paid and you're getting success from doing it, and it's like how you have to understand how to shave that and how to work that. So but once you get your destiny and you get your voice, you have it. No one can take that away from you. Then you can just keep working and work deeper and deeper, and people may not like what you do. There's no guarantees that anybody is going to ever see or want what you do. But you know that you're working from a place of real groundedness, and you know that you'll feel the alignment. You'll feel the power. By living in my purpose and by living in my calling, I feel like I do have an effect on the people around me. But I have to say, it's taken me almost my whole lifetime to have the confidence and to be able to, it's only recently that I feel like I've been able to do the work, the internal work, because it's easy to become, a person who's giving people what they want. There's a lot of pressure when you're working to to follow the professional norms. So just recently I wrote a screenplay. It went really well, and then suddenly it didn't go well in terms of the funding. And it's like you start working in alignment with everything aligned, and you might not get initially what you want. And then it's like, now what I'm learning how to do is to keep it going and to keep moving things forward. Okay, so I did this, and now wait, spirit's giving me another idea, and I'm going to get that one out. And it doesn't feel like work anymore, because it's like I just go to spirit, and all these things that have been inside of me just bubble up, and I go, and you start understanding what kind of stories you get told, what stories you want to tell. I tell right now, it's like I have a wealth of stories, and I'm talking about young Black girls and women, and I've been told to tell their stories in a very multiple, complex things. And then I think, but there are going to be a lot of other stories I'm going to tell, and they just start coming to you, and it's not like so hard. So it's your dynamic. And then the documentaries I've done have been, one was Spirit Took Me to Haiti. A spirit took me to Selma, Alabama, where I'm from, my family was from. And so it's like you're riding a wave as opposed to you're fighting a wave. And it's taken me my whole life and I don't feel like I've written it to the where I want it to go, but I'm still writing it. I'm still here. Um, when I'm talking about source and I'm talking about finding your alignment, I can explain it to you as it's like where you feel like you found home. You found your home inside of yourself. This thing that you carry, that's like your home base. It hasn't been easy. I've had many challenges. I've been faced with many challenges, many things, many dark things, many things that are, I go, why me? Why am I facing this challenge? But as you keep maybe getting those challenges, and you have to get up and you have to still move forward, and you want to keep your light, you start understanding that there is a home base that's internal, that's inside of you, and only you can find it, and only you can hold it. I mean, there's things that you can do, like I dance, that helps me when I'm in class. I feel like I'm just tapping into source. Like I'm just plugging in, like an iPhone, like bam, I'm here. But not always. I don't always feel that way. Sometimes you're off, and you know you're off. But you keep trying different ways, like people movement is good, people sing, nature. All these things are pushing us into our alignment. And then once you start learning how to be in alignment, you start you don't like being out of alignment, but so you start like, and being out of alignment, what does that feel like? That feels like fear. That feels like, you know it's basically mostly fear. It's 100% fear, and that fear we all feel as human beings. So you just make it's like a decision. Do we want to be in door number one, which is fear and pain and suffering? Or do we want to be in door number two? I can't tell the fear and the pain to stop coming. I can't tell the stuff to stop chasing me, the sickness, the death, the mental illness, the sadness. I can't tell it to stop chasing me, but I can hold on to the doorknob of the other door and try to hold that and be there. And that's all I can do. And alignment, I didn't have, what is it like to be in alignment? I guess I need to say, well, okay. What is it like to be in alignment? Being in alignment, it's difficult. It's difficult to find. It's difficult to be. It's an inside job. It's from the inside. And I learned how to be in alignment through suffering, through going through difficult situations, through being, hurt, or having something really difficult happen to me. And I had a choice, you know, where do I want to be? Do I want to continue feeling this way, even though I've been defeated? I've lost something, or something has happened to me that's super horrible. So, but being in alignment has to do with being home, finding your home. It's your home frequency. It's the frequency, it's the place where you are totally integrated. You can feel it. It's like a buzzing inside of you. You have that energy inside of you. You have that ancestral memory inside of you. You have that, whole connection that is like, and when you find that, you suddenly are so alive. You feel the direction, you feel where you have to go, you know what you have to be. You're just happy. It's like bubbles. It's like bubbles that are going, or it's like a circuit. It's like energy, pure circuitry going through you. And when you're in that space and you don't have anything blocking you, it's like a beautiful experience. So after numerous defeats and failures and trying to be a warrior and just like losing so many things, I had to make a choice. Which door did I want to live in? Do I want to live in the door of fear and suffering and pain? Or do I want to live in this world where I feel more vital? And then I had to learn that it didn't matter if I won or not. I could still be in this place. I could choose to be in this place as much as I wanted to. And that's what I'm working on now. That's the third part. What I want to say about being in alignment is that once I found that alignment, being out of alignment did not feel good. It felt so bad. It felt so wrong. It just felt not right. And so being in alignment felt so vital and alive. And it felt like I was actually electric or buzzing, like a bee. And so I started cultivating and working to be in that place, because even if things don't go right in the world, I can be in that place. I can have that. One other thing I want to say about alignment is I found it mostly through dance. So, and through a disability, because I'm dyslexic. So when a teacher gives the instructions of the choreography, it's like a lot of people who are not dyslexic can get it really quickly and they can just do it. I have to translate it to the left-hand side. So I make more mistakes. And so I would feel more awkward in class. I would feel more like, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. I don't have the skills to do this choreography. And I just had to slowly learn how to turn off that critical voice and feel the music and go to the heartbeat of the pulse of the music and turn off my critical voice and say, okay, I'm going to make a mistake, but I'm going to do this from inside of me, from my own source, from my own feeling. And in that way, I slowly started to learn how to put things together and keep my own self alive. So I learned it, you can learn it through singing or dance or swimming or anything. But I learned it from having a disability. Listening to source if you talk about listening to source and how do you find source, it's like, can you smell a plant? Like, so my aunt, I had an old aunt, and I think the first time that I got really tuned into it was she was really old, and she'd take me to the grocery store, and we would pick out like fruit, like watermelon or melons, and she would have me smell it. And slowly and surely you would be able to like get to the fruit and you could smell which one had the sweetest taste. That's source. There's vitality, there's life inside of it. And she would be like, smell this, smell that. So it's like you develop your sense of smell, you develop your sense of connection to the earth, you sense the time, you hear the wind, you start with nature, and then suddenly you feel this vitality inside of you that's inside of other creatures. And that source, that thing that's brimming inside of you that makes you want to run, that makes you feel like the sunlight. And you turn off your mind and then source. The more you turn off your mind and the more you listen to these internal things that are around us, the more it comes to you. The effect I had on other people by living out my passion was multitude of things. I got everything from like, you're crazy to like, you're like, a lot of people said like when I was growing up that I was pretty wacky, like that I was kind of like not normal, that I asked too many questions, or that I was, I felt like I was like looking at something and someone would be talking in school or something like that. But what I could feel was the energy that was being emitted from the people around me. So a lot of times you'll feel like you're not right, you're maybe something's wrong, and that really holds you up. But as I started clarifying and started, more teachers came to me. I studied Qigong. I studied with Chinese teachers, who actually, that's what they do. They work with source. I learned Tai Chi, Qigong. I started practicing that. It seemed really natural to me. And then once you start learning how to, whatever you find that brings you to source, it could be cooking, it could be music or whatever, then suddenly, people are attracted to you when you are in source. And when you are not in source, people are not attracted to you. When you're twisted, when you're angry, when you're sad, not to say that you can't be those things, but now I know that I have to repair myself. Or if I see someone and I see that they're like that, I see it. I feel for them. But it's like it's more like an internal repair that you have to do. And then wait, so if we were all walking around that, we would just be like much more happy to be here, to have this precious, wild and precious lives. We'd be much more excited to have these lives. One of my favorite quotes is from Mary Oliver, and it's like, what are you going to do with your wild and precious life? It is wild and it is precious. And, we have to hold it. We have to hold what we are. If there's one thing that I could say that's really important, it's like there's not enough. Sometimes there's a lot of vitality in communities of color, but then there's a lot of pain and suffering. And I think that what I'm seeing is that in the beginning, like you can tap into a lot of that pain and suffering because there's a lot of ancestral stories that keep washing up and people are trudging. People are suffering and they're holding it in their DNA. And even though I have my share of that type of stuff, I really see that the more I elevate myself, and then that goes into my daughter, it goes into my friends, the more that people see that you are able to hold this place, you're like not you're like creating a ripple effect. And not that you're super anything, but that you're holding this sense of vitality and you're holding this sense of like importance. Then they can see that their lives are important and that they see that there's a space for them and they can see there's a technology to get there. And that's like the huge step is like hold that space for the people that are coming after you. They need it. They really, really need it. So that's very important. Yeah, I'll say, what would it look like if everybody was in their passion, everybody was in their flow, and everybody was in their voice? I think the world would be substantially stronger. It would be a much better place. I mean, one of the things that, one of my tips or one of my things about being in flow or passion is there's places where I feel in flow or passion that will put me in flow and passion. One of them is a library. I go to a library or bookstore to get put into source. The books resonate with me. Another place is obviously a dance studio or with dancers. That's being with other bodies and we're all resonating together. Another place for me is, in nature, you know, where the trees or things like that. So there are places, and then you can find places, like a liquor store does not resonate with me. But I was taken to a liquor store and I was told to like resonate with this place. It took me almost my whole life to be able to say, I don't resonate with that. You know what I mean? So if people could have the courage to like say, this is where I feel right, this is where I resonate, and people could build upon that, we would have a lot happier, more joyful. And joy is like an inside thing too. And we would probably, we wouldn't have all these divisions and all this hate and all this pain and all this suffering that we seem to be falling into in a very serious way again. So I think it's the key thing is like for people to be allowed to find their voice and to find their resonance and find where they are connecting. And remember, people don't connect just by words. People rarely look at each other. People rarely connect, but people are connecting with their eyes. They're connecting with you know, I mean, dancers know that when we dance, you can't dance and not connect with your partner. That's like thing one. Do you know? Musicians know that. So if we could take some of those, maybe some of these arts where people do it and people didn't have to just pay to go and see it and then not understand what it is, but just actually get it and have it, we might have a better world. And I guess that's why we're all here, to like think about these things and to say they exist.